In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this cute top that was inspired by a post that I seen on Pinterest. And y'all, it's super easy, made out of 2 granny squares, so let's just get right into it. So to start out, you are going to use some medium weight 4 yarn, and I'm using a 4.25 medium millimeter size hook. But for this project, because it is granny squares, you do not need to have this exact hook size. You can use whatever hook size that you want to use. As long as you have the right measurements, it works fine. It's just the bigger your hook size, the bigger your gaps are in your granny square, so just keep that in mind. Depending on what you're going for, I use a smaller hook just because I didn't want my spaces to be too big and I didn't want the top to be too see-through. So I did start out with my magic ring and I'm working on my granny square. I'm not really going to go too deep into how to make a granny square. There's tons and tons and tons of videos on here that'll show you how. But yes, so for my squares, I did 10 rounds of the granny stitch pattern. So with that 10 rounds, I did measure out from collarbone to collarbone, and that was the length that I wanted my top to be. So you're going to do that, measure out from collarbone to collarbone to see where you want your top to stop and where you want it to lay. So when I'm working on my squares, I like to work on both of them at the same time. For whatever reason, I feel like it saves me more time and it just works up faster. So that's what I ended up doing. For round 2 of your granny square, you are going to cut and then reattach your new color. If you're not changing colors, that's fine. But for round 2, I'm just going to chain up 3 and insert 2 more double crochets into that same space. And then I'm going to go right into my next corner without chaining 1 in between. I'm just going to go right into the next one with 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into that same space to create that corner. All right, so 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to do the same thing in this next corner. 3 and chain 2 and 3 more double crochets into that same space. So you're just going to repeat this granny stitch pattern all the way around until you have your desired length. So I have completed my 2 squares. So for my squares, I did do a total of 10 rounds each. And with this 10 rounds, that gave me the measurements that I said in the beginning, that collarbone to collarbone. I felt like 10 rounds was good enough for me because keep in mind we are going to be adding a little bit on the sides. And you want the top to be a little bit snugged on you. So that's why I decided to do 10 rounds. So just continue on doing as many rounds as needed for the length and measurements that you're going for. If you're wondering where I got this measurements from, this is how I measured from collarbone to collarbone. And I got that 12-inch measurement. So you just kind of have to try it on as you're working just to see where it lays on you. Now that we have our 2 squares completed, it's time to work on the sides. And for the sides, I am going to be using the join as you go method. So as you see on the first top that I made, I tried on I held up the squares to me just to kind of measure out and eyeball where I want my my sleeve to start. So I just counted up as many granny stitches as I felt was comfortable enough for me where I wanted it to be connected up until. So I counted 6 granny stitches. So that is what I'm going to do next. So in your corner space, you are going to chain up 3. And remember that chain up 3 does count as a double crochet. And then enter that same corner space, you're going to insert 2 more double crochets. So that is going to be your first cluster. And like I said, we're doing 6. So in the next space, you're going to do another set of 3 double crochets. 3, 4, 5. Now remember that you don't have to do this many, depending on how your squares are laying on you and whatever size you're going for. You'll just do more or less. I like my top to be kind of tight on me, so I work this stitch up until like my armpit. So you're just going to do that, and then once you're done, we'll connect them. Okay, so once you have your desired amount of granny stitch clusters, it's now time to start connecting. So I'm going to chain up 2, which I've already done. And then to start the join as you go, we are going to slip stitch to the next square. And it's actually going to be the 6th space from that corner. And you're going to insert 3 double crochets to connect it. Okay, if I can get it. All right, so once you have your 3, now you go back to the right to slip stitch to connect it. And then you work this pattern in a zigzag motion. So on the left, we're going to insert 3 double crochets. And then on the right, we slip stitch. Okay, slip stitch to the right. Again, 3 double crochets on the left. And then slip stitch to the right. So you're just going to repeat that all the way until you reach the top here. So I am on my last cluster. I've inserted 3 double crochets into that corner. Now you see on the right there is not a corner space because that's where we started with just our 3 double crochets. So you're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3, or if you feel like you want to slip stitch into the second chain, that works fine too. So once you've slip stitched, this is what it should look like now that it's all connected. And then you're just going to chain 1 and cut your yarn. And then you're going to repeat this again on the next side to connect the second side of your top. So this is what it looks like. Okay. So this is your front panel and then your back panel. Even though they're both the same, doesn't really matter. So then you're going to fold your work wrong sides facing each other. And then you are going to reattach your yarn on the next side to start. So here I am reattaching my yarn into the corner of the next side. And again, I'm going to chain up 3, and that does count as my first double crochet. And in that same space, I'm going to insert 2 more. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing that I did on the last side for 6 granny stitch clusters. Okay. And I don't want this video to be super long, so I am kind of chopping up my videos a little bit just so you guys get the gist, and then I can move on. Okay, so I'm just continuing this pattern, and then once I reach my desired length, and for me it's going to be six spaces, I'm going to chain 2 and then do my join as you go method as we just did before. Okay, so for this next step, we are working on the border that goes around the bottom of our top. So for this step, you can either do single crochet or double crochet. I am going to do double crochet, so I'm going to chain up 3 once I've attached my yarn. And then I'm just going to insert 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way around the bottom trim of our top here. So in that first stitch, I'm going to insert 1 double crochet and then into the next one. And then I'm just going to continue that. This part is super easy, just putting 1 double crochet all the way around. And like I said, you can do single crochet if you don't want to do double crochet. I just thought the double crochet looked cute. So this is what it should look like once you're finished with your round of double crochet. So to work on the sleeves now, it's going to be single crochets. So I'm going to reattach my yarn into a corner space. So we're going to insert our yarn and slip stitch to attach. And then from here, I'm just going to chain up 1. And now we are going to insert a single crochet into each stitch around. Okay. So I'm just going to continue following the stitches all the way around the armhole. And then once I reach that corner space, I'm just going to slip stitch to the top of this chain 1. And I'm going to work my sleeves for 2 rounds of single crochet. Now this is optional. This is where you can kind of play around with it. If you don't want to do single crochets, you could do double crochets. You could do 1 round of double crochets or whatever you prefer. This is just what I did. So you're just going to repeat this all the way around until you reach the beginning again, and then you're just going to do the same thing on the other side of this sleeve. All right, and then off camera, I did go ahead and add a trimming around the neck part of the top. So I just did 1 round of single crochets. Okay. So now at this point, your top is actually complete. Now this next step is optional, just if you want to add a little bit more tightness to your top, but you can be done right here and you don't have to move any further. But for me, I wanted to add another round of trimming to the bottom of my top, but I wanted it to have a bit of a snug fit. So I am going to add elastic. I actually got this elastic from Amazon. It came in a pack of 2, 1 white and 1 black. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to cut out a piece of elastic that fits around my under boob area. And then I'm just going to tie a knot. I don't do anything crazy. It's nothing too spectacular. It's just a random knot. I don't really measure it too much because I want it to be kind of tight. So now I'm just going to insert 1 single crochet all the way around the bottom while I'm carrying over that elastic. Okay. And it's fine that it's white. It doesn't really show too much once the top is on. And also keep in mind when you put the top on, the top is going to stretch. So I'm just going to continue this all the way around until I reach the end and then slip stitch. All right, so now our top is now complete. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think this top is so cute and it's perfect for summer. If you guys do make it and you followed my video, be sure to tag me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram to see how I style my tops as well.